Wave if you can hear me. Hi. Good morning. Good morning. We're going to start by acknowledging the land. This land acknowledgement calls us to commit to continuing to learn how to be better stewards of the land we inhabit. We recognize that every member of the Santa Rosa Junior College community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1918. Consistent with our values of community and diversity, we have a responsibility to acknowledge, and I'll add make actionable, and make visible the college's relationship to Native peoples.
By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm Indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold Santa Rosa Junior College more accountable to the needs of the American Indian and Indigenous peoples. We acknowledge that we gather at the Santa Rosa Junior College on the territorial traditional land of the Pomo people in Santa Rosa and the Coast Miwok people in Petaluma, past and present, and honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations.
Thank you, Linda. So hi, I'm John Stover. I teach sociology here at SRJC, and then I also have this little side hustle as academic senate president. It's good to see you all this morning. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here at 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, how does that feel? Yeah, because that's when we're gonna start graduation this year, 8:30 in the morning. Yeah, get ready, right? All right, so first of all, congratulations on making it through the 565 days of January. I don't know about you, but it lasted forever. And I'm really excited about the 28 days of February because we're about to transition from the year of the wood snake to the year of the fire horse. And the last time we had a year of the fire horse, the Chinese Cultural Revolution took place. So buckle up, right? For me, this new year marks the transition of one of shedding and leaving behind what doesn't serve us. And if you think about a wood snake shedding, it's painful. It takes a long time, right? And let's build up into the future. Let's look forward. Let's be earnest and honest and full-fledged in our partnership, not just in support of our students, but in support of one another. And Linda's gonna talk about that. So this week, for a brief shining moment, we appointed all faculty to BP, AP, and committee seats for academic year 25-26. I want thunderous applause for that. Yeah. I searched long and hard for somebody to join me in an impromptu dance party when that happened, but I failed, so I just did it on my own. And less than 24 hours later, I found out there's still 2 seats on the district online committee. So talk to me if you want those seats, but if we don't fill them, I need a break, and then we'll start recruiting in April for next year. So thank you to everybody who stepped up. I really, really appreciate it. The Academic Senate had its spring retreat, and we practiced the pro-con parliamentary mic debate structure, which is really going to amplify senators' voices. And I'm really looking forward to that because my job is to amplify faculty voices. So this is going to be a tool in which we do that. And the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges is going to be here in Santa Rosa, April 9th to the 11th in Railroad Square. And I'm really grateful to all of our district partners who have stepped up. We're probably going to be able to send close to a dozen senators and future senators to plenary this year, which is really astounding. That's really, really great news. So thank you to everybody who is donating. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our classified Senate President, Linda J.
Good morning. A few weeks ago, as I was walking through campus, a colleague thanked me and the classified senate for bringing back the feeling of family to the district. And as I walked back to my office, I began to agree that family is exactly how the Senate sees our community. Our campuses are full of bear cubs, growing, curious, and finding their way, supported by a community of bears who watch with care, offer guidance, and when needed, stand in fierce protection. A healthy family is guided by shared principles, values that shape how we care for another, how we show up. Our family is guided by our district values, which include community engagement and relationships founded on cultural competency, trust, an embrace of differences, and interconnectedness. Well-being centered on the physical and mental wellness of all members of our community. Integrity that emphasizes honesty, transparency, and ethical engagement. We live these values by choosing to listen, not just to respond, but to understand our students, our colleagues, and sometimes ourselves. A mother bear teaches her cubs when it is safe to climb, when to move forward, and maybe most importantly, when to pause. In the same way, most of the most meaningful progress we can make comes when we slow down long enough to truly hear one another, especially voices that may not be the loudest, but often carry the deepest insight. When the world feels uncertain, divided, or even hostile, our responsibility to one another becomes even clearer. We must stand firm in protecting the dignity and the dignity, safety, and well-being of every member of our family. We do not turn away from challenge, we meet it together. We show up for one another, we speak up for one another, and we hold the line for the values that define who we are. Our strength is in our collective voice, our shared purpose, and our unwavering commitment to stand as one family. We work every day to create spaces where our cubs feel safe to explore, take risks, and learn their way, knowing they are supported and valued and never walking alone on their adventure. Growth often asks us to step beyond what feels safe and familiar, and we are the strongest when no one walks that path alone. That is why participation matters. That is why shared governance matters. And that is why our community spaces matter. We invite you to join a shared governance group, take a class, visit a Senate meeting or function, lead a workshop. Today, greet someone you don't know. Welcome our new colleagues to our family. Sometimes the simplest connections, a name, a smile, or an introduction, can be the steady branch as someone finds their footing. When we challenge ourselves, we expand not only our skills, but our understanding of one another and continue to build a strong, healthy community and reaffirm our sense of family. Being a part of the Santa Rosa Junior College family is a responsibility we all share. The Classified Senate is committed to this responsibility with advocacy, shared governance, and fostering an environment where every classified professional feels heard, valued, and empowered to contribute within our family and the greater community. We are honored to represent our classified professionals in shared governance, working alongside our management and faculty members, all in service of our precious bear cubs. We look forward to continuing this work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Where are we? Oh, that's okay. Oh, great. Okay, thank you. So I want to say I really appreciate that analogy about family. I had to move 2,000 miles away from mine in 1994 to actually find family. And as queer people, we create family all the time. It's called family of choice. And it's a way that we create safety for ourselves. And every day we have a choice. Every day we face choices. We face choices who to relate to, who to love, who not to love, who to date, who not to date, what to wear. You know, as my mom said, this didn't just happen, right? I had to put a lot of thought into this, right? Like it takes time, right? We have choices, we have agency. I talk to my students all the time about the agency we have in a world where structural forces are more visible and more impactful than ever. And it's very easy to get lost in the morass of those macro level, not so invisible forces. This semester and this year, I made a choice to start my day with students Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 9 a.m. And on Monday and Wednesdays, I'm teaching Intro to Sociology, and on Tuesdays, I'm teaching Social Problems. And I don't know if you've ever tried to teach a sociological course on social problems in 2026, but there is no shortage of issues and topics to explore. And I didn't plan this, but we were talking about Minneapolis, and I thought, okay, well, let's introduce the kids to The Daily Show, right? Because you get informed and you can laugh. And so I did that, and nobody was laughing, because even The Daily Show couldn't make light of what was happening. But then this week, I found the Instagram account of the Portland Frog Brigade, right? People who dress up in inflatable frog costumes and disrupt authoritarian fascist tactics. And that is a choice they made. They made a choice of joy, they made a choice of love and frivolity, and it's not without danger. One of my students pointed out that he saw, ICE pepper spraying a person in a frog costume, which if, you can imagine how dangerous that would be. Then you're in that inflatable costume and then all this pepper spray comes in. So we face a world that's increasingly hostile to our well-being. And I believe more than ever, and I see it in all of you being here and making the choice to be in person. The in-person human experience is what we have the most control over. So I invite you to choose joy, choose love, choose community. Make a choice every day, just like Linda said, to reach out to somebody, to take a class, to participate in shared governance, and to be a part of the solution. Let's build up the community. Let's build up one another. Let's serve together the community that we live in. I've lived in Santa Rosa now for 2 years, after a lifetime in San Francisco. I love it here. I love it. I live in Bennett Valley. It's beautiful. It's also Condo Valley. And I could do without the ants, I will say that. Like, the ants have got to go. But Sonoma County is a beautiful, beautiful place, and we are beautiful, beautiful people, and we have beautiful, beautiful students. So together, let's serve them all, and thank you for letting me serve with all of you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to our Superintendent President, Dr. Angelica Garcia.
Thank you. Is that? This feels like very complicated. Okay. So I was going to walk around, and then I realized that I do not trust myself with Dr. Anderman's classroom setup here. So I'm going to stay here, which is a little bit different because I like to move around. But good morning, buenos dias. It's really wonderful to be here, and I want to welcome you to our Professional District Development Activities Day, PDA Activities Day. I want to thank, can we give a round of applause to all of our colleagues who work behind the scenes to get this day ready for us? You have been welcomed by our colleagues who have worked hard in preparing this day, as well as our Senate leadership colleagues to help frame the day with their opening remarks. And I would like to add to that. So Santa Rosa Junior College is Sonoma County's community college. As the open access institution of higher education, we provide pathways for academic and career goals, from certificates to degrees to transfer to just learning a new skill. There are close to 23,000 students enrolled in courses across the district. 23,000 individuals who choose to be at SRJC to achieve their goals and aspirations. Students choose to include SRJC as part of their interconnected system that makes up their community, their tribe, their chosen family. And I promise we did not coordinate our remarks. The collective work carried out across SRJC has clear and measurable impact. Findings from the 2025 Economic Impact Study show that the college contributes an estimated $1.8 billion in economic impact and supports just under 19,000 jobs across Sonoma County. And that's possible because of each and every one of you in the classroom, in the programs, in the community outreach. The impact is created through daily work across all areas of the district. SRJC is a regional hub for workforce development and pathways to transfer. And this is how we ensure that Sonoma County residents can count on us to be partners with them in their learning goals. Examples of that are reflected in the 2025 SRJC District Annual Report. So please take a copy. There's some great stories in there highlighting students and faculty and staff. The researcher over the past academic year, we have held community roundtables hosted by the Sonoma County Junior College District Board of Trustees and the SRJC Foundation Board throughout the county to engage in listening sessions about our responsiveness to the community. The researcher educator in me wanted to hold a baseline, so we are asking the same 4 questions throughout these 7 community roundtables. And from these roundtables, we have learned that SRJC continues to hold a critical role in open access to higher education, that we serve as the regional workforce hub in this county, and that we are a partner with workforce, with industry, with K through 12, with nonprofit organizations, with creating accessible pathways for all. We have learned that the community wants to see more of us in outer boundaries of our county. They want to have access to courses online in the evenings and over the weekends. They want to hire SRJC students and graduates, and they want younger generations to have the same access to education that earlier generations have had. Earlier this week, the Sawabona Block hosted a tea with Trustee Bailey as part of the engagement opportunities for Black History Month. It was absolutely grounding to be in community with students and colleagues with intention, with purpose, and with the cultural humility that we have so much work to do as a country. Among the many dichos, or pearls of wisdom, that he shared with us, I want to share 2 of those dichos. The first of which is this. He said, "You have to educate yourself to the reality of the world we live in." The reality is that the very fabric of our democracy is being tested. I shared during the 2024 PDA opening session at the Petaluma campus words from Toni Morrison. The very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, and you spend 20 years proving that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdom, so you dredge that up. None of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing. In today's world, those distractions include defining an entire racial, ethnic group as illegal criminals. It includes destroying national buildings, art exhibits, and historical facts. It includes demonizing Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio as un-American. The irony, of course, is that Bad Bunny is from Puerto Rico, a U.S. territory since 1898, where they are considered U.S. residents at birth since 1917. Facts. The distraction includes instilling fear, distorting facts, and erasing our history because it serves the few with the level of wealth and access to power that grows increasingly more indignant and boisterous in distorting our truth. Our humanity is what can propel us to dismantle the structures that are shaking. They are shaking right now because we are saying ya basta. I believe we are in a point in our country's journey where the individual power of choice of what is just, equitable, and good has to be our daily work. And as educators, that is our daily work. The power of choice and forward momentum is what contributes to our community. And as educators here at SRJC, we choose to continue our own learning and development. Today is filled with sessions, development sessions created by colleagues in the spirit of sharing knowledge, skills, and wisdom. For us and for students alike, we do have to educate ourselves to the reality of the world we live in, a world and a country that has grown increasingly divisive, harmful, and downright life-threatening to so many. So we can choose to not fall for the distractions, but rather in the ways in which we can build community, as my colleague so eloquently said before I stepped up here. Growing towards solution is what our community needs from us. The second dicho Trustee Bailey shared with us was, how can I say I can't do it when I know I follow in the steps of those who have forged a way when there was no way? We do not have the luxury of not engaging the world in the hard work, we do not have the luxury of not engaging in the hard work that is to preserve and ideally advance public education. I love public education. I love higher education. I believe in its power to transform lives for entire communities. I humbly recognize that I stand here on this stage because of those who paved the way for me to be here. And even beyond my own familial roots, many of you have already heard me talk about my grandfather, Apolonio Cabrera, my grandmother, Maria Soto Cabrera, immigrating from Mexico to the United States. So even beyond those roots, it includes 5 Mexican-American families filing a class action lawsuit in Mendez v. Westminster, which was a landmark case in 1947 here in California. It ruled that Mexican schools in California were unconstitutional and had great impact on the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education ruling. 5 families coming together, saying, ya basta. I am aware, humbled, and do not take lightly that my access to education fundamentally changed because of the little girl, Sylvia Mendez, and the families who fought for an entire people. Yes, we are living through unbelievable times. Yes, we have real challenges in meeting the educational and career needs of a community that enrolls mostly part-time. Yes, we have real challenges in achieving fiscal sustainability to ensure that SRJC is here for another 107 years. So I can't stand here and not be clear in my intent and my purpose to move us towards solutions, with a clear understanding that I must hold myself and each of us accountable to do our part in realizing the mission of SRJC. I choose to be here because my purpose, I truly believe that my purpose in life is to be part of a community that does its part to disrupt generational poverty. I choose to be here because SRJC is made up of incredibly brilliant, talented, and compassionate educators who want to make a difference. We're about to engage in what I imagine is going to be a phenomenal lecture by Dr. Anderman. Right. Bringing together the arts, bringing together expression through voice, through music. Last year we had the presentation by our colleague Kay, and all I know is that there was an amazing power of blue and art, and I walked out of here feeling like I wanted to enroll in a chemistry class. Almost, not quite, but almost. And that is what being educators is about. We try to make sense of things in this world, and we teach. So, my hope for you today and for the remainder of this semester is that you are able to choose to be here at SRJC to help us create and sustain a community where each and every one of us and our students knows that they belong. It is my absolute pleasure to serve in this role, but it's even more exciting for me to invite our colleague, Kay, Dr. Frendel, to come on up so that she could do justice of introducing our colleague, Dr. Mark Anderman. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome. Before I get started, I would like to mention that graduation this year is actually going to start at 8 o'clock and not 8:30. I'm sorry to be the bearer of that news. Hooray! Hooray for 8 a.m. Thank you. Well, I'm here to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Dr. Mark Anderman, who's going to be giving the 2026 Tauzer lecture. So I wanted you to have some background about his life. All right, Mark was born in Ohio, but was raised in Salinas, California, right across the street from Hartnell College. He was not the child of musicians, as one might have thought, but rather his parents were both political scientists, having met as political science majors at UC Berkeley. There you can see his mother, who was a trustee at Hartnell College, in a photograph with President Lyndon B. Johnson. And Senator Walter Mondale once had dinner at the Anderman's home. You can see the thank you letter posted there. Mark's musical influence was actually from his grandparents. His grandmother played the organ, and his grandfather played the guitar. And you can see there on the right, Mark getting his first guitar lesson from his grandfather. As a young child, he played the trumpet in the school band until the age of 13, where he picked up the guitar for the first time. So throughout the many stages of Mark's musical journey, he played in his high school jazz band. And there you can see them at the Carson Jazz Festival in 1986. Can you find Mark in the photograph? And there he is posing in front of the bay with his guitar in 1995. I have some other favorite images. So here on the left is Mark's band photo from his high school production of Grease. He moved to Long Beach when he was 16 and really got into the guitar a little more and had a teacher who found him even paying gigs throughout the community. But I love this photo of Mark in the pit band posing against the classic band background of a brick wall. And then you can see him on the right at his recital at his college recital at Cal State Long Beach. The collage in the middle represents many decades, actually, of Mark's performances and accomplishments in the music world. So for education, Mark was a community college student. He went to Long Beach City College and studied audio recording, and then he transferred to Cal State Long Beach, where he studied classical guitar. And then he went on to San Francisco State to get his master's degree in music theory before starting his teaching career, first as an associate faculty member here at Santa Rosa Junior College. And then he went on to 5 years full-time at Cypress College, which is in Southern California. And then he came back to teach in 2002 here at Santa Rosa Junior College. So he's been full-time faculty here for almost 24 years. And during that time, he managed to get his doctorate in music education at Boston University in one of the earlier online graduate programs before that was super common. And he did most of his work from here, but had to fly back to Boston to do a 10-day residency and prepare for his qualifying exams. So he accomplished all of that starting in about 2006, and all the time continued teaching here. So here's some photos of Mark with his students. In addition to being full-time faculty here for 24 years, he also taught in the Santa Rosa Symphony Summer Youth Program. And so that is who he is with on the left, are his Santa Rosa Symphony students. And then on the right, in his home in Forsyth Hall, which is right next door, teaching his musicianship class. So we will get to be those students today. So Mark has had a lot of important and accomplished students over the years, but the most notable I wanted to share with you is Ben McKee from the pop rock band Imagine Dragons. And I wanted to read a quote from the Press Democrat when Ben McKee was interviewed in 2015. At El Molino, I played in the jazz band every year. I was also in the Santa Rosa Junior College band, enrolling every summer since I was a freshman in high school, playing with Bennett Friedman and Mark Anderman. We have an incredibly vibrant music education system going on there in Sonoma County. I didn't realize it until I went to the Berklee College of Music in Boston that I found out that the SRJC program was really a concentrated version of the best parts of Berklee. I got there and I tested out of all of their basic level classes. I tested as high as they could place me because I'd had such a strong foundation studying with the teachers in the SRJC program. So I don't know what we could say beyond that. In addition to being a professor, Mark Anderman also is a professional musician and has published 4 studio albums. The last two, the most recent two of which you can listen to streaming on Spotify and Pandora and all of the other streaming services. If you want to listen to the other ones, you can come ask me or him for his personal website information, and you can find the information about listening to those. You'll hear his music today, and it takes you to another place. I mean, that's my assessment of listening to his compositions. So in terms of working here at the JC, I've had the pleasure of serving with Mark in several venues, and so these are a list of some of the things that he's done here over his 24 years. He's been department chair. He has been co-chair of the Department Chair Council, which just happened to coincide with the 2017 fires, and there was a lot of work to be done in leadership at that time. So that's quite an accomplishment. He also served as interim dean of arts and humanities, which is not listed here, but I promise you it happened. I've been serving alongside him on the academic senate. It is an absolute pleasure. You can definitely see the political scientist influence of his parents in working with him on the senate. He's been committee chair of, in particular, the Professional Growth Increment Committee, which at times has met some controversy and has done an excellent job. I've also served with him on that committee. And not listed here, but you should remember this, Mark was on the curriculum committee. So just put a pin in that and save it for later. He won an outstanding award for curriculum development. He won the Metro Chamber Excellence in Education Award for SRJC, and he won the Academic Senate Professional Achievement Award for his most recent album. Right? What more can we say? So I'm going to introduce you now to Mark's family. So here he is, and all of but one of whom are here in the audience. The other had a school commitment, I believe. So here he is pictured in the Grand Canyon with his son Bryce and daughter Abby. And then in Mendocino County with his 2 children and his 2 stepchildren, Zoe and Allison. And on the right in Germany with his partner Kathy, with whom he will be celebrating 10 years together next month. And you can see a little duck has swam in between them, which he wondered that if we should Photoshop that out, but I thought, why would you want to do that? I think it's so romantic. Kathy's a Children's Services Administrator for the Sonoma County Library. All right, so without further ado, I would like us all to give a warm welcome to our 2026 Tauzer lecturer, Dr. Mark Anderman.
Thank you so much. I thought I should begin by playing some music. How about that? Yeah. Well, the guitar's working. See if my hands are working. I would like to open with a piece from my first album, a composition wrote over 30 years ago. It's called Like Tears in Rain, and it was inspired by the movie Blade Runner, which was asking the question of whether AI androids have a soul and therefore deserve to live. All right, so my discipline is music theory. There's many approaches to music, but music theory is about explaining the structure of music. How does it work? The piece I just played for you was full of scales and chords and arpeggios and musical structures that you probably would like to know more about. So, is the curriculum committee here? Okay, because I did my topic and scope, all right? I did my homework, Anne. Okay, so music theory is how music works. We're looking at its structure, and my scope is, well, gosh, there's a lot of music out there, folks. I mean, what are we going to talk about for music? Well, I'm making my scope American popular music from 1959 to the present, and that date's important. Pay attention. It will not all be American. We got to get some Beatles in there and things like that. I mean, and it will not all be post-1959, but I felt that gave us a lens to focus on. So, to be clear, this is not some fuddy-duddy music theory lecture. We are here to rock. Are you ready to rock? Good. Let's talk about SLOs. All right. So our SLO is to analyze the structure of contemporary music by relating sounds to visual shapes. All right. Now, how are we going to do this? Some of this is going to be traditional, old-school music theory, but a lot of it is going to be fairly new, cutting-edge techniques that I hope you guys will appreciate. So, to open with, do I have to read music? This is the first question, Professor. You're giving it to, do I have to read music? Some of you read music very well. Many of you do not. And so the answer is no, you do not have to read music for this presentation. We are going to use a different approach, which is geometry, hence the title, From Shape to Sound. Now, why would I, as a guitarist, be so attracted to geometry? Well, this is my first guitar book that I ever had. I've had it for over 40 years now. And it was full of geometry. It was full of shapes. It was full of patterns that I could form on the fretboard that would make musical sounds. Hey, if you build this shape, you get this sound. And I've always been intrigued by that, and I came to realize that guitarists and pianists and many other musicians do think of music geometrically. So, to begin this trip, we're going to need to start with some basic definitions. These are things that any musician would know that you would get in a standard traditional music education. We need to understand pitch and pitch names. We need to understand octaves, pitch class, and half and whole steps. I think we can handle that. That's not too much. All right, so let's begin with pitch. Pitch relates to frequencies of sound waves. This right here is a picture of a clarinet playing a sound that vibrates 440 cycles per second, which we call 40 hertz. And we just happen to name that pitch A. It's called A440. It's the basis of our tuning system. All right? So then we say, well, all right, if that's A, here's that A440 for you. 440 vibrations per second. So what we then do is we then say, all right, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's where we stop using new letters and we start over on the 8th one, hence the octave. The octave is where we restart our lettering. So A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on. And so we have many different octaves of A or B or C. So the science behind this is that every octave is twice or half the frequency. So if this is 440 cycles per second, this is 880 cycles per second, whereas this would be 220, 110, and so on. That's the scientific explanation of an octave. But sometimes we just want to talk about C. like the key of C, or we just want to talk about B. Well, that's called pitch class. This is where all pitches with the same, all pitches with the same name, regardless of octave, are considered part of a pitch class. With me so far? Making sense? Okay, good. Half steps and whole steps. So a half step is a distance from one pitch class to the next, whereas a whole step is when we're skipping them. That's a little hard to see without a piano, so let's look at it. You notice that here are our lettered notes. You notice that E and F have no key in between. Therefore, this is a half step. Whereas D and E do have this black key in between. So this would be considered a whole step. Now, here is where music gets complicated. Everything was fine. Oh, we got letters. I can count. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I can do that. But here's where it gets complicated, is when we start trying to name these black keys, which is this could be called C sharp because it's higher than C, or we could call it D flat because it's lower than D. Okay, how do we know when to call it C sharp and when do we call it D flat, and why does it have two names? And this is where things start getting complicated. And I've made a lot of money explaining this over the years. Trust me, take my classes. I mean, I will help you sort this out. So I know a few of my students are here today. You'll all recognize this. The circle of fifths. Yes, if you really want to understand how to read music and all those complicated rules about when is it a sharp and when is it a flat, this is your chart. And on the other side here, I have one done by one of my students, Mitch Steffen, who's here today. You know, I wanted to appreciate when students give me art, particularly when it involves the geometry of music. All right? This is the road we would need to go down if you want to read music and do traditional music notation, traditional music theory. Because that's not what I want to do here. This is where I'm going to change course. And so we're going to get a little bit more modern. And by modern, I mean 1970s. I mean, it's been around for a while, okay? Sometimes it takes a while for new ideas to seep into the mainstream. Now, what Alan Fort was doing is he recognized the old mathematical discipline of set theory could be applied to music. And it would require some adjustments, and he'd made a lot of breakthroughs. And he started out trying to explain 20th century atonal music, but quickly discovered that it applied to many, many, many different kinds of music. He was essentially turning music into math when, frankly, it had kind of already been math to begin with. But if you read his book, it's kind of dense. It's a lot of mathematical formulas. It's hard to digest. It's not the easiest thing to look at. And it was Strauss who figured out that you could create geometry and make it more visual by using the set theory principles. So what Strauss figured out is, look, you've got 12 pitch classes. There are 88 keys on the piano, but it's the same 12 keys over and over and over and over and over again. So really, there are 12 pitch classes. So to get rid of this mess about the sharps and the flats, what if we just numbered them? And so we can use pitch class integers. Now, since we're using integers, we don't want two digits. So T represents 10 and E represents 11. I know that's a little confusing. There's a note E, but here it means 11. Okay? So we can simply represent, rather than getting into a debate about whether I'm going to call this C sharp or D flat, and I have to look at the circle of fifths and complicated rules. No. It's just pitch class 1. It's simply pitch class 1. And once you have 12 pitch classes, this is what Strauss said, is that at that point you got a clock. And everybody knows the clock. Everybody knows how to look at a clock. Everybody understands the clock geometry. So what if we put music on a clock face? And so let's use a common shape here, a C minor triad. Okay? Now, in my traditional musical training, I call this C, E flat, and G. But in set theory, you would call it 037 because it's pitch class 0, pitch class 3, and pitch class 7. And by having it here, we can recognize right away, okay, how many half steps there are here, each number is a half step, right? And we notice that there's a larger distance here than over here. But you see this Fort 311, and you're like, okay, what's Fort 311? There must be a formula here. All right, so let's talk about Fort numbers. Alan Fort figured out everything that could possibly be played on the piano and gave it a number. Dude, it's like, okay, respect, So what he realized is that there are a bunch of patterns that simply repeat. They're transpositions or inversions of the same thing. And so he set up the fort numbers as a taxonomy of pitch class sets related by transposition or inversion. Remember that for your final. Okay, so when we call something fort 311, what do we mean? It has a cardinality. All the math teachers are going to be happy. It has a cardinality of 3. In other words, there are 3 members of the set. And fort 311 would be the 11th possible combination of 3 pitch classes, which just happens to correspond with the minor triad. How nice. But one of the things that's important to note is that this is a scalene triangle. Why is that important? It means it's completely asymmetrical, which means that it will have 12 different possible rotations or transpositions. Okay, so here's where some of my traditional music colleagues will stop me and say, you know, man, I went all the way through a music degree and I don't remember this. It's like, yeah, this is newer, this approach of trying to look at things geometrically and appreciate things through shape and through geometry. So why are we doing this? Well, my goal here was to teach you music theory without making you read music. So we're simplifying complex musical relationships. We're engaging other learning modes. And this is growing in popularity slowly. It takes time for brilliant ideas to reach undergraduate textbooks, okay? But it's happening. It's starting to come in. And I have personally seen success with my students. When they are dealing with complex structures, when you can simply recognize it as a shape, all kinds of good things happen. So now that we're dealing with geometry, there's an interesting question of, do we as music listeners prefer symmetry or asymmetry? Because nature provides so many interesting examples of both. So let's begin with fort 312, a very symmetrical structure, an equilateral triangle. You all remember your geometry, right? This equilateral triangle, this should sound amazing because it's so perfectly symmetrical. We're going to love this. Really? Somehow the very sameness of it, the symmetricality of it, makes us feel like we're in a white room with no doors and no windows. It's like we're a little disoriented. In fact, wouldn't we rather see something like this, which is symmetrical, resolve to something asymmetrical, like a major triad? Well, that's exactly what the Beatles are doing in the opening of their song, Oh Darling. Oh, darling. And you see how we resolve the symmetrical, disorienting sound of the augmented triad to the familiar, comforting, asymmetrical sound of the major triad. Well, now I'm inspired. I want to put another triangle on top of it. So what if I took this one and added this one, then I smooth it out into a hexagon, and I get fort 635. This is fort 635 is what most musicians call the whole tone scale. You guys know this sound. You know where you know it is you're watching a movie or a TV show and someone starts dreaming. So let's suppose I'm at a bar. I've had a few too many. The bartender just cut me off. And I'm like, oh, my life is not what I wanted it to be. Looking back, maybe I should have taken that job offer in Denver all those years ago. I mean, I wonder what my life would have been like. I wonder. It's dreamy, it's disorienting. I don't know where I am because it's so symmetrical. So maybe we would like to hear that symmetry resolved to asymmetry, and I can't think of anyone better to show us that than Stevie Wonder in the introduction to his song, You Are the Sunshine of My Life. Isn't there something comforting about the uncertainty of whole tone resolving to the certainty of B major 9? Okay, this is a good one. the square. I mean, you're like, you got to show us a square, Anderman. Come on. It's like, okay, all right. You want the square? Here you go. That's the diminished seventh chord. It's a square or a diamond. It's so symmetrical. Everything about it is all the same, has the same disorienting effect. And usually we want to, like they use it, traditionally like when the storm is coming or something. That's kind of the traditional use of that, right? Okay, well, I like to put shapes on top of each other, so I want another square. Okay, put another square and smooth this out. This creates what we call the octatonic scale. Again, it's so incredibly similar. There are so many axes of symmetry on this. Geometry teachers are really happy right now. There's so many axes of symmetry here that it's disorienting. We're not sure. It makes us feel unsteady or lost. Well, that was a perfect thing for Alan Silvestri in scoring the music Back to the Future.
Into the future! 1 minute into the future to be exact. Time precisely. 1:21 a.m. and 0 seconds, which I'm kind of looking at the time.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me you built a time machine? Kind of a DeLorean?
The way I see it, if you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style? Besides, stainless steel construction made the front. Look out!
And so the disorienting effect of the octatonic scale was the perfect setting for Doc Brown's madness or genius, depending on how you look at it, right? Okay, back to math. Ordinality. Ordinality is order, sequence, and position within a set. Y'all remember this from grade school, right? Okay, how important is that in music? Depends. The structures I've been showing you, like whole tone scales, diminished seventh chords, pretty much unimportant because it all sounds the same. It really doesn't matter where you start. It's so symmetrical that it all sounds the same. Whereas if you have asymmetrical or less symmetrical structures, then where we hear home becomes crucial, okay? So let's use our favorite set. This is the one we see the most in the music that we listen to. And it's called the diatonic scale, which corresponds to the white keys of the piano. But the question is, what order do we put them in? It's like, where do we start rotating the set? And so we need a couple more terms. We're going to talk about tonic and modes. Tonic is which pitch class we feel is home base. At the end of the song, where do we want to come home to? That's what key we're in, right? Whereas modes are different rotations of the scale to different tonics. So if I go back to our friend Fort 735 here, we can start a clockwise rotation here from C, or we could start it from D, and notice that that changes the organization of the half steps and whole steps. Unlike completely symmetrical structures, it will sound different if we start in a different place. If we assign a different pitch class as home, we will hear it differently. And this continues. We have mode 3. Notice the keys shifting on the piano as we're working our way through these modes. All right? So, which one is our favorite one? Well, no question. If you're looking at a popularity contest, the favorite one is... This is your good old do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. This is the major scale. It's generally described as bright or happy or comforting, perhaps like the Beatles' Let It Be. And I could make it even a little brighter and happier if I went back in time to Mozart's Sonata in C. I don't need to get up here and tell you all the songs that are in the major scale. There's millions of them. This is the one that you hear the most. Very common. But what comes in second place? Like what's the next most common one? Well, the next most common one begins here on A and takes, or pitch class 9, and takes a trip around the circle. And notice again the pattern of half steps and whole steps shifts. So it should sound quite different. And so this is the minor scale that we are often told sounds sad or melancholy or mournful. Well, since our focus is popular music, how about Journey's Who's Crying Now? And I can make it even sadder if I take it back to classical music and Chopin's Funeral March. And you know what's funny? Major and minor are the same thing. Not exactly. They're the same set with different ordinality. In other words, where you consider home base matters. But the profundity of this, when I look at this in this way, and I realize that, wait, these two sounds that we consider opposite, you mean the happy and the sad are part of the same circle? You mean that the dark and the light coexist? I'm trying to think if I've ever seen this idea somewhere before. Somehow this sounds familiar to me, like maybe this idea has already been expressed somewhere. Okay. What about Dorian? Dorian starts in the second position. It starts with pitch class 2, or D, and it sounds like this. Now, when people hear this, they usually say it sounds minor. It sounds like it's minor, but it's a little slicker. It's got some, nice shine to it. It's not quite as sad as the traditional minor scale. So for an example, let's go to Broadway and the song Magic to Do that opens the musical Pippin. Dorian mode has been popular in many styles, but remember that date, 1959? Told you this was important. Were you taking notes? Okay. 1959, let's celebrate Black History Month by acknowledging Miles Davis. Yes. Miles Davis's 1959 album, Kind of Blue, was a game changer. It was a fundamentally different jazz album than the albums that had come before it. And one of the things that he was doing was embracing the sound of modes that were not just the major or the minor. He got this idea from French Impressionism. The modes were known in early church theory, but they were not widely used in traditional music until the turn of the 20th century, when composers like Erik Satie and Claude Debussy, Ravel, Fauré, the French Impressionists began experimenting with these modes, and Miles Davis realized they would be perfect for jazz. And then a whole lot of popular music followed after that. There are British Isles folk music that is based on the Dorian mode. So let's just listen to some examples about the diversity of the Dorian mode.
Scarborough Fair. Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme. Oye, ¿cómo va? Mi ritmo, bueno pa' gozar.
Stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. There's something wrong here, there can be no denying. I watched the sun off the shore. Give you the world if it was mine.
All right, wide diversity of music in the Dorian mode. So what's the next one we should look at? Well, very popular one for a long time is Mixolydian, which begins here on G or pitch class 7. And that one sounds like this. The distinctive thing about this is it sounds almost like a major scale, but crucially, it ends with a whole step instead of ending with a half step. If I were playing in major, it would have gone like this. And ended with a whole step, a half step. Instead, it ends with a whole step. And so oftentimes people say that Mixolydian is the laid-back major scale. It's the easy major scale. It's jazzy, it's funky, it's bluesy. Very popular, originates in folk music. In fact, we're actually going to begin with some bluegrass music here, and we're going to take it through all the way up to modern pop music. This is Mixolydian mode.
Manic depression is searching my soul. Just don't know how to. They say the neon lights are bright on Broadway. They say there's always magic in the air. Confusion never stops, closing walls and ticking clocks.
How often do you hear bluegrass and Lady Gaga in the same presentation, right? Okay, so Lydian. Now, Dorian and Mixolydian, widely used across many genres. Lydian is a little more focused. Lydian is a little more rare, and it has a particular sound. Let's listen to it first. It begins almost sounding like a whole tone scale. It's a major sounding scale, but it's often said if Mixolydian is the laid back major, then Lydian is kind of the edgier major. It's got some excitement, it's got some anticipation about it, it has some mystery to it. When the Little Mermaid wants to become part of your world, she reaches for the Lydian mode. And it was also because it does have that excitement, that edge to it, that made it very popular in 80s rock music. So in contrast to the broad diversity I've been trying to show you with the other modes, now we're going to get laser focused on really where Lydian shines, really where Lydian has its true home, early 80s rock music.
Well, it's not far down to paradise, at least it's not for me. If the wind is right, you can sail away and find tranquility.
I've tried before to tell her of the feelings I have for her in my heart. You should have seen by the look in my eyes, baby, there was something missing. I'm finally out in the clearing, I'm free. I've got dreams I'm living for. I'm moving on with them, never find me. Rolling on to anywhere.
Now, The Little Mermaid was not the only 1980s movie to prominently feature the Lydian mode. John Williams chose it as the theme for Yoda.
I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
Oh, dang. Lesson over. Okay. So now it's time to talk about Phrygian. Phrygian is an unusual mode. We immediately hear a difference with it. There's something unusual about it. There's something different, and it's right here. It's the fact that it begins with a half step. All the other modes we've listened to so far have a whole step jump at the beginning. This one begins with a half step. It sounds minor to us, but it just sounds different or somehow just a little bit mysterious, a little bit unusual. It turns our ears to the east, perhaps to Spain or to the Eastern Mediterranean. And so I'm going to step outside of my 1959 box right now, and we're going to go back to a piece of classical music, but I thought it was so appropriate because this is Ravel's setting of a Greek folk song in the Phrygian mode that will get the sound of the mode into our ears. And then we can maybe bring it up a little closer to the present, because if the 70s was the golden age of Dorian, and the 80s was the golden age of Lydian, the 90s is when hip-hop artists discovered the Phrygian mode. So, and it's also used in heavy metal, but we're going to have a heavy metal discussion later. That's coming up. Okay? Phrygian mode.
One pill makes you larger, and one pill makes you small.
Laid back. With my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
Girls, you know you better watch out. Some guys are only about that thing.
Folks, that's how you share the bill with Snoop Dogg and Lauryn Hill. All right. Now, let's go back for a second to that White Rabbit, that Jefferson Airplane example, because it's not exactly in the Phrygian mode. It's a little bit more complex than that. Grace Slick is singing in the Phrygian mode, but what the guitarist is doing is something else. He's using something from Spanish flamenco, which is called soleá. And this, folks, is not Phrygian. It's actually a different scale. It's called Phrygian dominant, which has this sound. Now, that scale is the basis of arguably the most popular Jewish song of all time, Hava Nagila.
Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, baby, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, Hava, Nagila, baby,
Yes, that song is so popular, they made a movie about it. It's called Hava Nagila, the movie. It's a movie about a song. That's how popular it is, right? Okay, now when we hear Phrygian dominant, when we hear this, what really attracts us, what gets our attention, is this structure at the bottom of it that in Arabic theory is called the Hijaz tetrachord. And this is interesting because it's not used a whole lot in traditional Western music. When traditional Western musicians encounter this is usually when they study a scale called harmonic minor. And almost as quickly as we learn it, we're told not to use it. It's like they say, oh, well, you can use it for chords, but I mean, really, if you're going to make melodies, you would be better off doing something called melodic minor. Huh. And so this got me thinking. This has always bothered me as a music theory teacher, that this sound, this Hijaz tetrachord, that is so central and crucial to so many Eastern musical cultures that are listed here on the screen, somehow in the rules of traditional Western music theory is considered forbidden or unmelodic. I've always wondered if there was a little bit of prejudice going on there, but that's not my field, and so I'm just going to put that out there for you guys and drop it and walk away and just say that I think there's something going on here. So truly, if the Hijaz tetrachord is considered just, I don't know, too spicy or something, how about if we had two of them? So how about if we took a scale that went like this and had a Hijaz tetrachord at the bottom and then one at the top? Okay, so this scale is called double harmonic major. And it's something that you don't see very often, with one notable exception. And that is the Lebanese-American guitarist Richard Mansour, whose stage name is Dick Dale, and created a surf rock hit by taking a traditional Eastern Mediterranean folk song called Misir Lou, which is about forbidden love with an Egyptian girl, and made it into a surf rock hit, which was then picked up by Quentin Tarantino as one of the themes for Pulp Fiction. Thank you. And now for something completely different. This idea of scales or modes representing people or places or cultures was very fascinating to the composer Howard Shore. And this is what he wanted to do when he scored the trilogy Lord of the Rings movies. And so let's see how another film composer ties the idea of scale or mode to various regions, peoples, or cultures. Now, you might have noticed if you were paying attention, earlier I said there were 7 modes, but I only showed you 6 of them. You're like, okay, professor, you skipped part of the lesson plan. What about, the 7th mode of Fort 735 that we call Locrian? That one, I looked, and you know what? There really are not any songs that are truly entirely based on the Locrian mode. It's used a little bit in jazz, I mean, I might use it occasionally to improvise with, and you'll find the scale used sometimes, but not for full songs. However, there is a lively discussion going on online that perhaps heavy metal is where we find the Locrian mode.
Chrissy, this is from you.
Any Stranger Things fans out there? Yeah. All right. So, let's test this hypothesis that heavy metal is the home of Locrian, okay? So the band that's usually cited is Metallica, and so I'm going to take one of their best-known songs, Enter Sandman, and we will find out if, in fact, this is a usage of the Locrian mode. Now, here my music theory brain kicks in, and I say, well, really what I'm hearing here is E minor, E Aeolian, not Locrian. But we do have B flat and F, the notes that we would expect in Locrian. So you kind of notice that I like to put shapes on top of each other. So earlier we put 2 triangles and then we did 2 squares. What would happen if we did 2 septagons? Okay? And so if I actually combined the Aeolian and Locrian mode, and yes, folks, wait for it, it's 499, the non-atonic metal scale. All right? And this is what the internet community seems to agree is going on with the music of Metallica. And that's pretty cool. Now, what's really fun about this is that there's a parallel conversation going on online among Star Trek fans about what to do with Klingon music theory. You know, because according to canon, Klingon music theory is based on a non-atonic scale. And that makes a lot of sense because if you think about it, Klingon opera is pretty metal. Yes, from shape to sound, Metallica and Klingon opera united in non-atonic scales. All right, at this time, I would like to invite some wonderful musicians to the stage, Rudolph McGinnis, Stephen Hoffman, and Sarah Williams. Three very talented colleagues, and they're going to join me in a world premiere tonight. This is the first public performance of a new composition of mine, which is called November in Canton. And Canton referring to Canton, Connecticut. Kathy and I were back east to visit her family for Thanksgiving. And the picture that you see, I'm going to leave it up there because it kind of sets the mood, is me as a California boy looking out the window at a New England snowfall in November. And the excitement that felt, I mean, the brisk air, you know, spending time with the people I love, you know, out there on the East Coast. And I was inspired to write a new piece of music. And so here's where you're saying, okay, professor, you're getting late in your lecture, you're going to do your SLO? It's like, well, yeah, there must be some shapes involved here. Okay, so I did take a familiar shape, Ford 735, our favorite one, in the key of B, the B major scale. You know, figured I'd use B major a little bit, but I also grabbed some symmetry from the B diminished 7 chord, and I said, well, what if we combined these, and I could have something in the key of B going to the key of D, to the key of F, to the key of A flat, and back to the key of B. And could I possibly find this harmony between a less symmetrical shape and a fully symmetrical shape to produce a beautiful new piece of music? Are you guys ready? Ladies and gentlemen, the world premiere of November in Canton. Steve Hoffman, Sarah Williams, Rudolph McGinnis. So it is a lot of work to put together one of these things. I did not do it alone. I want to thank all of the people who were involved in this. This is a grouped list. I figured I would forget people and trip over it, so I'm just going to generally thank everyone who was involved in this. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Wow. That's all I got to say. Yeah. I'm still floating away in Connecticut somewhere, I think. Well, I'm here to present Dr. Anderman with this plaque in recognition of his teaching excellence and in giving the Brook Tauzer Lecture in 2026.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If you have a million questions to ask, I invite you to come to the session after this, where we're going to be meeting in the Black Box Theater. There will be some snacks, and you can ask Dr. Anderman all the questions that popped into your mind, or just come and congratulate him. So thank you all for listening to this wonderful lecture. And now I'd like to invite Alexa Forrester up, or Stephanie Dirks, to give the closing remarks.
Alexa couldn't make it here today, so we hope she's feeling better. I'm Stephanie Dirks, and I'm here to give your closing remarks. This concludes the opening session, so thank you all for coming and for watching. Please proceed to the foyer of Lindley for some coffee and snacks provided by SEIU and AFA. Session 1 workshops will begin at 10:20. We do recommend checking where the workshops are located because some of them have changed and some of them have been canceled. We do hope you enjoy your day. Thank you so much.